my equipment here. We won't be doing any podiums. I guess Florian said I was a serial junkie entrepreneur. I'll let that pass. Let me go ahead and get started. This is our agenda for the evening. We're going to have 4 topics, a little bit of fact and fiction about veteran entrepreneurs. You'll be amazed at some of these numbers. We're going to make a transition from soldier to salesman and review some of the programs in Colorado for veterans and entrepreneurship, because you'd be amazed there's quite a few things going on in this market. I've got about a 30-year arc in doing startup companies. I got my start here in Colorado Springs, born here in '60. The Air Force Academy Hospital wasn't done yet, so I ended up down at Fort Carson in the Quonset hut. Both my parents were in the Air Force, and I do have a brother that is a retired Navy SEAL, so I got some pretty good military family background. Even though I did not serve in the military, I took a different trajectory in my career. Obviously did some things around the world in terms of startup companies, did some work in the UK, Hong Kong, South Africa. Pretty much came back here to Colorado in '94, set some roots down, brought my family back from California after I did my tour of duty here, and then set up Ensemble Ventures to really focus in on the entrepreneurial stack in Colorado. So enough about me. These are a couple of the sites that we maintain for our Colorado Springs Entrepreneurs Group, my Ensemble Ventures company, and then some resources for entrepreneurs and nonprofits here in Colorado. If you're interested in this, I can talk to you about that later. All right, first out of the gate. How many people here think you are an expert? Raise your hand. Good. Okay, see, you fell into it. There are no experts in any industry, in my opinion. We all practice at everything we do. Okay, there you go. Everyone has something to contribute and offer. You just have to be willing to listen and apply yourselves to that application. Now, one of the things that I find amazing, a lot of people think that veterans don't have an impact on this economy. Baloney. 1 in 10, the U.S., 2.4 million or 9% of all U.S. small businesses are owned by veterans. 45% are more likely to be self-employed than other veterans. Now, one of the things that I know, Florian, you had a lot of good research from the research report from Deloitte, but Bunker Labs, which is another entrepreneurial startup group out of Chicago, has done some pretty good research on veterans. And we find that almost 50% of World War II veterans owned and operated a business. And then when you get down this stack, you start realizing, wait a minute, younger veterans are significantly less likely to become entrepreneurs than veterans from previous generations. What? Really? I found that very difficult to digest, and there's some reasons for that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But what I find, the real numbers here, about 22 to 25% of veterans are interested in starting a business, and they're 1 to 2 times more likely to be self-employed than other veterans. Well, if you start looking at the facts, these businesses are basically generating $1 trillion in receipts, employ 5.5 million people, and had an annual payroll of $195 billion. That's a huge impact. So veterans really belong in the entrepreneurial stack. They've been in the entrepreneurial stack, and they're contributing significantly. And this is one of the reasons why I think a lot more people need to take a serious look at this veteran entrepreneurship program in Colorado, because we've got some amazing programs underway. Now, obviously, Florian covered a little bit about this research report. I won't spend too much time on this, but the real findings in this is what was key. The major dissatisfaction in the civilian workforce. Our civilian workforce is disorganized. They wanted to basically forge their own path. They wanted personal and financial independence, and they had a desire for work-life balance. Now, the 3 big challenges, obviously, difficulty accessing capital, limited or no opportunities to network, and difficulty developing mentorships. I'm going to tell you a quick story. When I was in my early 20s, I was working for Intel Corporation in Sunnyvale, the new fab engineering group. I was an EM designer, helping to lay out fab buildings for semiconductor plants. One day I went up to a trade show in San Francisco to see a video teleconferencing demonstration. It was one of the first exhibits of its kind in 1981 in San Francisco, and it was $1,000 an hour to do video conferencing over the satellite. And I met a company there that was doing some very innovative work in video conferencing, and took such an interest in it. I asked the president of the company, well, how are you selling the product in the Bay Area? I'm a draftsman, designer at Intel, and I'm asking this guy about a technology that was just getting started. 2 weeks later, he sends me back a mail, because remember, in 1981, we didn't have a whole lot of email. So I get this letter back, and he gives me 2 leads with a couple of companies in the Bay Area. I interviewed for both of them, got job offers for both of them, gave notice to Intel, took one of those jobs, and 2 weeks later, the guy decided he didn't want to handle the technology. Holy mackerel, I'm out of a job. I was out of the best job I ever had. Well, I got a call 3 days later from the vice president of the company saying he wanted to meet and interview me to become a product specialist for their new product because they hadn't found anybody that had any experience to get 2 job offers in an industry that hadn't started yet. Well, little did I know I was being interviewed by my future mentor. And the reason I bring this up about mentoring is it's absolutely important in early stage careers for people to meet somebody that can take you under your wing and help guide you through this process. I learned everything about my business development, sales, and marketing chops from a 35-year-old multi-millionaire. And I didn't even know he was that until I met him. And I took a jump and took a leap to go out into this market. So one of the things that I found in these findings now is entrepreneurship's been going on a long time. Hey, I call my invention the wheel, but so far I've been unable to attract any venture capital. So everybody thinks it's the idea that makes it work. Nah, not really. It's team, it's execution and implementation. Ideas last. And in the history that I've had in doing startup companies, that basically is universally applied across the world. Now, let me get down to some details because this is somewhat of a light presentation because I am the last speaker of the evening. So how do you go and make this transition? I don't know if you can see this on the top. It says making the transition from a soldier to what? Is an entrepreneur really is a salesman? Okay? Is that a bad word? How many people here sell? Fantastic. Okay, so if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be a salesperson. Even though I use man here, maybe that's politically incorrect, I'm not sure. But I couldn't change my graphic, so I had to use the man connotation here. So, does anybody know what that red dot in the middle means? Let's see if you guys are on target here. What's the red dot mean? Nobody's willing to take a guess? Say it louder. Focal point, that's a good one. Anybody else? You're going to love this next slide. Purpose. What do you really want to do? Do you love it? Are you good at it? Does the world need it? You going to get paid for it? Yes. Okay, is that all making sense? Passion, mission, profession. That dot in the middle is how you make this successful transition. All right? Purpose, passion. Now, one of the things I want to do is go through a couple of programs in Colorado, starting right here in Colorado Springs. So we have a venture ventilator for veterans. We started it back in 2015. We dialed it in with our Colorado Springs Entrepreneurs Group, and it's really designed to work with veterans in these early primal goose stages of their ideas, their team development, their finance, their capital. And so we've actually worked with a number of veteran organizations in the Springs, up in Denver, and we're kind of proud of this little program. It's not widely known because we basically run it through our Colorado Springs Entrepreneurs Group. So we've had this for about 10 years. We've got about 1,060 members, and we really focus on the needs of our entrepreneurs in the local community. So if you're a soccer mom with an idea, if you're an aerospace engineer working part-time, burning the midnight oil, whether you're part of a technology team, a software developer, SaaS cloud internet, alternate energy, you name it, we probably have these members in our group. You can basically see us at coloradospringsbiz.org and learn more about our local group where you can basically show up every month and meet other entrepreneurs, other veteran entrepreneurs, meeting and sharing their ideas and concepts. I'm actually walking this talk. 3 years ago, I formed a company with a military dynamo. Her name is Tammy Donaldson. She spent 33 years in the Army in logistics. She's about 5'2", but the most amazing cracker I've ever seen in my life. She's a wild cracker. She gets stuff done. She spent 33 years in the Army, but during that 33-year history, she spent 20 years doing transition services for veterans coming out of the military into civilian life. And I was absolutely captivated with her skill sets. And one of the things that we started looking at 3 years ago was this problem with affordable housing for veterans, affordable housing for general population. And so we got together and formed a new company called Veteran Support Solutions. And this is an L3C. Does anybody know what an L3C is? Low profit, limited liability. This is not a 501. This is a low profit social impact. Earlier you mentioned about the social impact companies, right? Well, we can go to 501 companies and secure investment or capital, but we can run our business like a business. And that means we can do some different things in terms of reaching out to other investors, other strategic partners. And so what we've been spending the last couple of years on is focusing on how do we build cluster communities for veterans, how do we offer transition services. And it's been a great experience for me to apply a lot of the skill sets that Tammy has learned in her 33-year Army career, and she's learning about how to be an entrepreneur and do startup company technology, how to go after market. So we've been basically trading skill sets back and forth. So I'm walking this walk in terms of veteran entrepreneurship, because I think it's really an amazing opportunity to take such a talented base of people that come out of the military with all their experience and put them into really viable companies to get some things done. Okay, and if you're interested, I can tell you a little bit more about some of our programs for cluster communities and tiny houses, and we've been pursuing this for about 3 years. Okay, another group you need to be aware of is the Colorado Advanced Veteran Entrepreneurship Program up in Denver. Is anybody familiar with this? CAVE. That's the coveterans.org site. They've got a pretty interesting program dialed in with this mission for connecting veterans and local leaders. They're really reaching out to veterans and families. So they got a good program going up in the Denver market. And they also have a meetup group. How many people here have been on a meetup group? Raise your hand. Okay, good. So they have their own meetup group. Welcome military veterans and service members. Now, another opportunity, the SBDC. How many people have been to an SBDC event or training? Good. All right. They've got a really good resource site online for Colorado for consulting services and veteran services. If you haven't been there, this is a good resource site. They also have this program called Boost to Business. This is more of an online training platform that you might be interested in taking a look at. So I think that there's a good overall resource that you can get online, and this runs through the SBA, the Small Business Administration. Patriot Boot Camp, how many people are familiar with this? This is probably new to some of you. This is an interesting program initially developed up in Denver. I'm going to go ahead one slide. How many know Congressman Jared Polis? Have you heard of him? How many people have you heard of Techstars? Okay. David Cohen is one of the founders of Techstars, and Jared Polis put together this Patriot Boot Camp program. And it's actually a pretty good architecture because they're basing it along the lines of the Techstars model. So they've got a fairly good, aggressive program, not only in Washington, D.C., but back here in Colorado. And they're basically having a very specific, and I'm going to have to go up here because I'm getting older and my eyes are getting worse. They have an event. This is the Patriot Boot Camp is coming back to Denver. It's September 28th through the 30th. And you want to be able to get your applications in on May 1st. This is almost like 50 military veterans who can actually do startup technology, be in front of judges, and there's actually a program to do that in September. And then Vet Hacks is coming up. This is in April 20 and 22nd. Patriot Boot Camp with Bunker Labs. How many are familiar with Bunker Labs out of Chicago? So you saw some of the research earlier about Bunker Labs. Very interesting group that's reaching out across the country and putting in programs like this in various cities. So, and then the last one here, this is a program and events summary for the state. This is at the SBDC Fort Lewis, which is down in southern Colorado. They've got a pretty interesting list of resources for veterans and entrepreneurship, and you can hit it at that site. All right, that's it. Any questions or answers? I'm at the end, so I might even be able to suck up some more time. Thank you.